Hey friends, Peggy Hall back with you from thehealthyamerican.org. We are continuing to talk about the fires in Texas, and I am intentionally not going to share any images. There are plenty. Oops, hey friends, let me get that background off. There are plenty of images that you can find online, and if you have been watching my channel for any length of time, you know that I've spoken about the fires all over in detail. I have a whole playlist called Fires. I have particular coverage on Lahaina, and we know that this is part of the Burn Back Better plan of the evil doers, and you know exactly how I spell that. So as we get underway, we are going to be talking, I want you to come on this journey with me, and we are going to be looking at the very interesting connection between the areas where this fire, one of them called the smokehouse fire. By the way, these names of fires are so bizarre. Campfire, car fire, smokehouse fire. These evil doers want to take something that would naturally be enjoyable for us, like go to a smokehouse barbecue, or, there's the campfire. And then suddenly, well, car fire is devastating as well. So they are also manipulating us with the language. And one of the phrases they've come up with is build back better. We are going to be looking at the connection of Amarillo, Texas, which is the closest, like, medium-sized town that is near where these fires are burning. We are going to be looking at the Ports to Plains corridor that has been in the works. Interestingly, just in December, they named it a new highway so that it could go all the way from Texas down to Eagle Pass. We know that's in the news. Of course, Abbott is in the news and Trump is in the news in Texas. It's so interesting that Texas is being pushed to the forefront of our minds in the mainstream media merry-go-round. I want to show you the connection between Amarillo and the smart city and what they're doing. I want to show you how citizens are pushing back against this. I want to show you the exact connection between Amarillo and the United Nations and their sustainable goals, as they call them, the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, and how all of this plays together hand in hand. In an upcoming video, I want to share with you the hypocrisy of wind farms. Why am I bringing that up? Because Texas has the largest wind farms in the country. And one of my very astute Healthy Americans, I love my Healthy American audience. You all are sophisticated, you're savvy, you're smart, you're supportive, and you're a little bit snarky like I am, because, hey, that's what we need to do here. Kind of rattle the cages of those that are still asleep. And some of you very astutely pointed out that this is prime land that could burn out the cattle ranchers and so forth so that they could then put in these wind farms. I'm going to do an entire series of videos down the road all about the hypocrisy of these wind farms. You probably already know that these wind turbines are not made in the United States. Okay, they're made in Japan. Japan is 55,000 nautical miles from Texas. And I'm going to be covering that for you in an upcoming video about exactly how much oil is used to transport these turbines, how much oil and gas and coal, all of those fossil fuels, which don't come from fossils. I've said it before. If they are, why don't we dig up the graveyards? There we have an inexhaustible source, but God already provided us with that in his wisdom, with abiotic oil, that the earth continually replenished itself with that oil. So this whole wind farm concept is completely hypocritical. Solar power, some of you use that if you're in a sunny place. All of this ties together. So there's quite a journey for us to embark on. The very first thing I'm going to do to set the stage is I'm going to play you about just about a minute or two of the Build Back Better, which now has become Burn Back Better. So if you're new to this concept, it is the idea of moving people out of the more rural areas into the towns and the cities so that there can be more density, easier to control. And it's nothing that's hidden. They come right out with it in their sustainable development goals. So the sloshy over there, yeah, in Hawaii. By the way, that's why I'm using this virtual background. It could be in Hawaii, maybe. It's so beautiful. And I want you to have a pleasant experience as we are dissecting some of these horrors of the New World disorder that are inflicted upon us. So Joshi there in Hawaii literally said, we are going to build back better. We are going to do it sustainably. We're going to do it with resilience. And he is a New World disorder, like in the running, right? He is right there with the United Nations, because well, I exposed it and then others did as well, this direct tie-in with the United Nations and the language and all of his speeches there. He actually started to roll back some of the language. They're still pushing forward with the government takeover, the land grab. I'll be covering that in terms of this new bill in the state legislature where they want to create a new district. I mean, it's kind of bizarre, but it's their way of the land grab. So the concept is you have this natural disaster, whether it's a hurricane, whether it's a fire, whether it's a flood, a tornado, a drought, a hailstorm, aliens, I guess, from outer space, whatever disaster they can come up with to terrorize the people, traumatize the people, make insurance so outrageously expensive that it only comes from the government. That's how it is in California. Okay, I have a house in what they call the fire zone, and I can't get regular insurance. It has to come from the government. This is the incremental takeover of nationalizing these industries. 100 years ago, give or take a few years, in Russia, they did it in one fell swoop in the Russian Revolution, where they just took over everybody's private property. They just, if you had a business, well, now it belonged to the government. And, the banks, the airlines, everything now was government operated. And in the United States, they're doing it in an incremental fashion. So taking over the insurance companies, taking over the banks, and taking over the property. And soon you, just like in Hawaii, you actually are renting. If you're in Lahaina, you're renting those properties. Basically, it's one step away from the government because the government is paying for the rent to the landlord. So the landlord's just in the way. They'll get rid of the landlord soon enough. But it all is based on getting rid of private property so that the government can have control. Don't take my word for it. Let's listen to the New World Disorder darlings. I'm going to share my screen. And again, I've got several things I want to cover with you, so be sure you stick with me. Take a moment to resubscribe. I heard from a healthy American who said, Peggy, I was unsubscribed 4 times. I keep subscribing. YouTube unsubscribes me and so on and so forth. So let's put YouTube in its place and kick that algorithm in the guts. How about that? Here we go. Let me share my screen and we're going to listen. Build back better. Oh, this guy needs a comb. Here we go.
We also want to work together on building back better from the pandemic, a slogan that I think that Joe has used several times. I think he may have nicked it from us.
Once we shut down the virus and deliver economic relief to workers and businesses, then we can start to build back better than before.
But it is undoubtedly an opportunity for us to work together and build back better.
Build back better. As the world recovers, we have a chance to reset the clock and build back better than before.
And building back better our economy and society.
We owe it to future generations to build back better and base our recovery on solid foundations.
The second plank in Build Back Better advances racial equity by mobilizing our infrastructure. Together we can fix this. Let's build back better.
Building back better after disasters is also vital to prevent creating new risks. Together, we can build a safer world.
4 sets of priorities can guide the response to Build Back Better.
You know what Donald Trump will do with 4 more years? Blame, bully, and belittle. And you know what Joe Biden will do? Build back better.
All right. That should have come with a vomit warning. I do apologize. I always have my vomit bucket right at hand because you never know when you need it. So let's do this, shall we? I'm going to share my screen again, and I want to show you, the Build Back Better comes from the United Nations. And let's set the foundation here by looking. This is actually the Amarillo City Plan. And you can see right here, their nice inverted triangle, because that's one of the New World Disorder symbols. Of course, usually it's the other way. This is called Vision 2045. It's their city plan. It's called a groundbreaking, community-driven initiative, a long-term strategic framework sculpted to foster equitable growth. I did a whole video about Equity and equality is a fantasy. It does not exist. Elevate the quality of life. Guide investments in Amarillo over the next 2 decades. It comprehensively addresses key facets of city life, businesses, homes, sidewalks, because everybody has to walk, remember, parks, aligning closely with community values spanning quality of life, economic development, housing, neighborhoods, transportation, health and safety, and growth management. Take a look at this image right here. And before we go on, you might be saying to me, Peggy, that sounds great. I do want to elevate the quality of life. I think our city should be caring about the community and the infrastructure and the economy and sidewalks and playgrounds and all of that. Well, I think that's fine, as long as it authentically comes from those living in the communities. Where I draw the line is where it is inflicted upon these cities from the outside and from the United Nations, because then it is no longer authentic, organic, if you want to use that word. And it is this incrementalism where before you know it, because of equity, it's not fair that you have a house like this with an ocean view. Hello, especially in Amarillo, it's not fair for you to have a house with 4 bedrooms and there's only 2 of you. Not equitable. This is exactly where we're going. There will be, probably in my lifetime, certainly in California. And look at what they're doing. California, New York. So you've got the 2 coasts, and then you've got the center of the country, which is the center of the communist movement in the United States, which is Chicago. So you've got the intentional destruction of Illinois. By and large, is a conservative state. I actually have relatives. That's kind of my roots, is from the Midwest. And I love Midwesterners. They're down to earth. They're practical people. They are not, generally speaking, looking for a handout from the government, except in these big cities. So they want rural people to go from their situations of being self-reliant, self-sufficient, not dependent on government, doing things in their own way, growing their own food, fixing things, having community schools, community gardens, all of that, which I think is what makes our community strong, is when they are naturally developed and grow in that manner. They want to move people out of those areas to the cities and even these larger sized towns. I think Amarillo is about 200,000 people. It's not very big, in terms of large cities, but they want to foment that big city mentality, which, as you look at it, most city dwellers are more left-minded. So what I want to show you is, you're going to be saying, well, Peggy, how do you know this isn't authentic? How do you know this wasn't the people themselves? Because the people are fighting back. Also, when I was looking for my clues, looking for evidence, this is what I came across. So here is the Amarillo Vision 2045. Sounds suspiciously close. And there's a link for it. I'll have all of that for you in my Substack, peggyhall.substack.com. Welcome on board. I got like 30 new free subscribers, and it is free, and a smaller number of you have actually upgraded to a paid subscription, which helps me do this work. And then you can comment, and you are invited to our monthly get-togethers. But anyway, look at this. This comes from the United Nations. This image that I have for you, it looks suspiciously similar to the city plan. You've got your phases, you've got your numbers. That's called Vision 2045, and this is 2030. All right, Agenda 2030. So the United Nations wants no poverty. That's like saying the United Nations wants nobody to ever die again. These are unattainable goals. Even Jesus Christ in the Bible said the poor will always be with us. Should we help them? Yes, but not through government means, through community, through individuals. All right, 0 hunger. Is that even possible? Anyway, it goes on. And the one that of course, gender equality, and what I'm looking at is number 11, and that is make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. Vomit bucket needed right now. Those are the code words. First of all, human settlements. Excuse me. We're human beings. Is that like to divide us from animal settlements or AI settlements? Why not just people? Why not communities? I don't like that language. Of course, they are inclusive, except, of course, if you are not a human pincushion, you will be excluded from society like you have been for the last few years. And safe, resilient, and sustainable. So when you look at this, And this is it. This is the Sustainable Development Goals from the UN. What is that? It's based on Agenda 21. That is a non-binding action of the United Nations with regard to sustainable development. It started back in 1992. Now, the good news is that was a long, long time ago. Let's see, 92, 02, 12, 22, over 30 years ago. And they really haven't gotten that much done. So now they're like at a breakneck pace to try to push this down everyone's throat. And from that, every year or so, they would have additional summits to talk about how well the countries were doing this, voluntarily. And from that, these sustainable development goals developed so that they could measure how quickly they are getting to Agenda 21. And that is known as the Sustainable Development Goals. Those went into place basically almost 10 years ago, 2015. And that is why these countries are really at, kind of like at a race to get these going. Now, I did want to make a couple of other comments that I have. And let me just summarize that, the major tenet of the New World Disorder, as I call it, defined by the United Nations, is this management of human settlements. That's exactly what the evil doers call it. Not cities, not towns, not communities, but human settlements. Am I the only one that it rubs me the wrong way? I can't define why it is so distasteful to me. It's just so remote, as if some other entity is overseeing the human settlements. So these unelected serpents, as I call them, want to create a world government to control you, your property or lack thereof, your movements, your possessions, your words, your thoughts, your freedom. This might sound outlandish and far-fetched, but just take a look at what's going on in your own town, in your own city. Have they put in the bike lanes? Now, I live in an area where it's a pretty large place, okay? In the county in general, we've got 3 million people. And I've been all over different places in California and other states. And I've seen these bike lanes that are painted green, but randomly. It's not like every bike lane is painted green. And it's not like only when you're entering and exiting. It's just random. I want to get to the bottom of this. I believe that these cities are getting money, federal money that probably is tied in with the World Economic Forum or the United Nations in some manner, and that they have to show that they painted these very, they're like an eyesore. But beyond the eyesore, I don't see anybody riding their bikes. Maybe in New York City, people ride bikes or something, or maybe out in the countryside. But in these towns, have you seen people riding bikes? I have not. I've seen maybe 3 people in the last, 5 years total in these bike lanes. Secondly, in San Clemente, they got rid of an entire lane of traffic and they dedicated it to the bike lane. Wow, that's really stupid. I'll just put it bluntly. So, the people living outside the cities, they're the ones that are the greatest threat to this New World Disorder, because the ones that are the rural dwellers, they're the ones that are growing their own food. They're not playing along with the government. They are not dependent on the government. They are self-starters. They are independent thinkers. They are self-sufficient. They believe in individual liberty. So that is the threat to the New World Disorder. And maybe you live in a rural area. Maybe you would like to. Maybe you did, and for some reason you were burned out of house and home. What do they do now with all of these disasters? Well, in the interim, they, get you connected with FEMA. And then in the long term, they get you into the Pack'em and Stack'ems, the rabbit hutches. And tomorrow's Friday. So I have a couple of videos lined up for you that have nothing to do with the fire. It's actually about how you can take action against the spraying in the skies, right? What in the non-spinning world is going on? It is all connected to these floods, these fires, the earthquakes, the hurricanes, the drought, because they are manipulating the weather. So it is all tied in. There are accelerants that are being sprayed. That's part of the reason these fires are burning hotter, but we're not really breaking down the fire today. I did that yesterday. What we are looking at is the tie-in of Amarillo, the closest metropolis there to where these fires are. And this is exactly what they want to do. There are a couple of points that they're looking at. One is transportation. This is from the United Nations directly. And I know that I have that linked at some point, that I will have that for you. Yeah, here we are right here. I will have that for you in my Substack. So global attention to transportation. What are they doing in Amarillo? They are doing their planes to ports transport. So let's take a look at that right here. And then we'll look at the concerns over the smart cities. Sorry, I flipped my lid, you guys. It is so dang frustrating when I'm trying to focus on sharing this information. Here we go. The Port to Plains corridor is a significant north-south transportation corridor that will unlock transportation capabilities for the energy industry in the Permian Basin and enhance Texas' key economic engines of international trade, energy, and the largest agricultural production in the country. Well, that's what they're planning on doing, and that is right in hand with those United Nations Sustainable Goals. Transportation is one of them. Here we go. They have a new interstate called 27. Interesting that 7 + 2 = 9. This was December 4th, 2023, just a couple of months ago. They celebrated the House passage of the I-21 Numbering Act of 2023, and this is to formally name the Ports to Plains corridor through Texas and New Mexico as Interstate 27. So here we are. And that's just what I read the quote for you. This is a big deal for this part of the United States and specifically for Texas. When you think about energy security being national security, Interstate 27 is going to play a massive role in allowing the delivery of that energy, not just to our country, but also throughout the rest of the world. In addition, food security is national security, and Interstate 27 will play a massive role in allowing the delivery of food to our own country. So this is what you have, and I will have links for you on that in my Substack as well. So it's not the exact direct area where this is happening, but it is in the region. So I also want to just give you a little more information about Amarillo, Texas itself, and why I think it's very interesting that this is where these fires are burning. So this comes from a website called facts.com. Yeah, it does not sound communistic to me, but I thought that they had pulled something together, and there is a little bit of a sort of left-leaning flair to their description. So it says, Amarillo, Texas is not just a bustling city with a rich cultural heritage and a vibrant economy. It's also a place where environmental initiatives and sustainability have taken center stage. As the city continues to grow and thrive, there is a concerted effort to preserve its natural beauty and reduce its ecological footprint. Because don't you know, the earth is more important than humans? Of course it is. From renewable energy projects to conservation efforts, Amarillo is making significant strides towards a more sustainable future. Friends, this is New World Disorder language all over again. So there are 9 fascinating facts, 9, of course, about environmental initiatives and sustainability in Amarillo, shedding light on the city's commitment to environmental stewardship and the innovative strategies to protect the environment for generations to come. I'm not going to read every single one, but I will have a link for you on my Substack. So number 1, they're talking about embracing wind energy. Friends, wind energy is hypocritical. The amount of money that it takes to create these wind turbines that are not created in the United States, most of them are created in Europe and in Japan, and they have to be shipped to the United States at a cost of 50 gallons per mile. And I did the calculation. So to get one of these turbines from Japan to Texas, it's 2,700,000 gallons of diesel to transport that turbine that was built. Guess how it's built? Well, there's a manufacturing process, and that manufacturing process is not using solar and wind power, friends. Yes, it's using gas, oil, and coal, because that's what produces energy. Just like electric vehicles are not manufactured using wind. It's such a farce. Stunning, and people are still falling for it, hook, line, and sinker. If you want wind energy, go for it, but don't be thinking you're doing anything other than creating a blight on the planet. Do you know how much it costs to maintain those? Do you know, I'm going to do a whole video putting them into place, maintaining them. Their shelf life is not that long. They have to be removed and put back into place. In San Clemente Island, they are replacing those, and they didn't even generate enough energy for the cost of their lifespan. It is a complete fabrication. It's another lie that we've been told. So yeah, wind energy, no, but they are doing it all throughout Texas. Amarillo, efforts to conserve water. There have been various water conservation initiatives to address the challenges of water scarcity. Let me just also say, God made enough water for all of us. Water is never, it transforms, all right? It is either vapor or ice or water. It goes back after it rains, it goes back into the earth as groundwater. So yeah, no, God didn't short us on water either. Okay. Energy efficiency is being promoted in Amarillo. Collaborative initiatives for environmental education in Amarillo. They have a commitment to green spaces and urban planning. So friends, this is not only in Amarillo, this is in your town as well. So it's got 200,000 people. Their median household income is around $55,000, average age 34. Okay, this is just like how much more typical of a town could you get? Here's what Amarillo wants to do. It has got a plan to implement this smart city initiative. What is a smart city and what are the concerns? So basically, there are different definitions. I'm going to read to you and show you an initiative that was brought against Amarillo to stop the smart city. And I want to applaud those individuals for taking action. So the main concern over the smart city is the digital connectivity that the cities are promoting as you'll have faster internet. Well, gee, I guess you're going to have 5G. And maybe that's going to include facial recognition at the post office or the DMV or, other county or city offices. What about these smart street lights that are able to, basically they're cameras that take a picture of you and where you're going and your license plate for those of you that have one. What are they going to do with that information, that digital information? What exactly are these smart projects that they're rolling out? There seems to be very, very little exposure or transparency as to what these cities exactly are doing. But what they're doing is getting a lot of money to push this forward. So residents are wary about cities and big technology, what companies are involved, how they're tracking that data, how they're going to collect it, what are they going to do with it, what about your daily activities? What if they say, we're going to start tracking your miles? I mean, that's something that they want to do in California. San Diego had that initiative to tax you. You're already being taxed on your gasoline, but to tax you again on your miles that you drive. So let me share with you this very encouraging information that came from let me find it here for you. It is a petition, and here we go. Maybe we can get some more signatures on this petition. So let me share my screen, and let's take a look at some good news here as we wrap up. Change.org, petition to halt smart city technology in Amarillo, Texas. This was started October 2023. So isn't it interesting? A few months later, now we have those fires. And I want to read this to you. So I'll show you where it is. This is what it looks like. And then I will just give you the highlights, and I will leave a link for you in the Substack, peggyhall.substack.com. So it says, we, the concerned residents of Amarillo, Texas, hereby petition the local authorities to halt the implementation of smart city technology within our community. We recognize the potential benefits of such technology. We believe it's essential to thoroughly evaluate its implications and ensure that its development aligns with our values, privacy rights, and overall well-being. Here are their concerns: privacy and data security. I think many people are concerned about that. So what about the collection, the storage, and the usage of personal data? How are the privacy rights going to be safeguarded? What's interesting about this is they do mention the phrase social equality. You know how I feel about that. But it says that it is crucial that the authorities address the potential disparities in access to the benefits of whatever technology they're going to be using, ensuring that all residents can participate in its advantages. What about the environmental impact? What about public input? What about the transparency? What about the decision-making process? And what about potential unintended consequences? There may be, this petition says there should be more studies. So immediately they want to halt to the implementation of the smart city technology and more inclusive decision-making, there's that word again, protection measures, and different environmental impact assessments. Now, friends, I don't know the person who started this. I applaud people that are taking action. I might not be in favor of everything that they're doing. I don't even know if that's a Trojan horse. But the point of this video was to help you see a bigger picture and to connect the clots in terms of where these fires are breaking out and what the hidden agendas, that's how I say it, are behind the aftermath of Burn Back Better. We see that Amarillo, Texas is in alignment with the United Nations, with their sustainability goals, with getting people out of the rural areas that sadly now this is where these fires are, and moving them into the cities. If you live in Amarillo, I would love for you to take some pictures of the Packham and Stackhoms. They're everywhere, friends, not just in Orange County, California. They are coming to a city and town near you. Many of you have said that they are empty, and that's because the developers that built them did so with your tax dollars and mine and money from the federal government that they print out of thin air. And they did so in order to meet the standards of affordable housing, but a lot of them are remaining empty. And let's hope they don't have any other use for them. All right. This was a little bit of a rough broadcast for me, friends. Thank you so much for your understanding, your patience. I have my faults and flaws, that's for sure. And tomorrow we'll close out the week talking a little bit more. I'll have a very short video for you about taking action, about notifying and complaining to the public serpents about this very visible spraying in the skies and how that is related to these incidents, I believe, these extreme weather events. I will be covering more of the Lahaina information for you coming up next week. Always appreciate having you on board. Be sure that you are subscribed, not only to this channel, but to my backup channel, which is Living Swell with Peggy Hall. On Mondays, we don't talk about any of this. We talk about emotional well-being and how to elevate your physical, mental health so that you can withstand all of the psychological oppression that these bad guys are trying to dish out. So I hope you have a great rest of the week and weekend, and I look forward to seeing you back here very soon.